Hello, welcome back to the channel. Today, well, I'm going to be talking to you what I did over the Thanksgiving Day weekend, mostly Saturday and Sunday, which is cleaning up the greenhouse and preparing it for the winter. Now, this process normally would be taking me a couple of weeks because there's no major rush. I didn't start until recently, which is kind of my fault. I did start and then I stopped and then I started and I stopped, and I think we've all been there at some point. But I looked at the weather on Saturday or Sunday, I can't remember, I think it was Saturday, and this upcoming week we're going to get our first hard freeze. Temperature will be hitting 32, actually I believe the temperature will be hitting 28 overnight. It's only for a few hours, but it's going to be the first hard freeze here in Eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B. If you're new to the channel, welcome. My name is Jason. I'm building a garden here in Eastern North Carolina, growing zone 8B, as I just said, and just journaling my process, learning, figuring things out, showing you what I'm doing, how I'm growing the garden, designing the garden, building the garden out. And here we are now, just days away from a big freeze, which I believe is going to happen Tuesday night, Wednesday. Let's pull out the phone. Let's check this out real quick. Yep, it looks like it's going to be early morning Wednesday. So we'll hit freezing at about 2 in the morning, and then we'll be down to 28 by 6:30 in the morning. So that's going to be a consistent drop, many hours of freezing temperatures, and then after that it'll start going up, and I believe the high on Wednesday will be 46, blustery 46, but then the temperatures continue to increase after that, with the high being next Monday at 70. This is the way we roll down here in growing zone 8B. I know many of you elsewhere in the country are suffering really cold freezing temperatures now, almost consistently, and your gardens have drastically changed. Some of you, though, may have greenhouses, which is awesome, and I would love to hear from you if you have a greenhouse and what you've done with your greenhouses for the winter. For example, have you insulated your greenhouses? Now, if I had this style of greenhouse up in New York, I would almost assuredly have insulated the greenhouse, and I would almost assuredly have a heater inside the greenhouse because it gets consistently cold throughout the winter for extended periods of time. Here in Eastern North Carolina, I don't have to do that. Well, I can do that, but I don't have to do that. One, the sun, it heats up the greenhouse pretty nicely on bright sunny days, which is nice. The other thing I'll show you a little while later is I have a different type of heating system in my greenhouse. And again, if you've been watching my channel for a while, you know what I'm talking about. If you're new to the channel, then I'll be showing you what I do and how I'm going to try to improve that a little bit this year. So let me stop prattling and let me show you what I've been doing. Before we go into the greenhouse, you may notice this potting bench is getting pretty empty. And again, if you've been watching the channel for a while, you know this whole potting bench was filled up with cuttings. In fact, I have a small folding table here in front of it that's also filled with cuttings. And they're in various stages of growth. Most of this is going to go into the greenhouse. And that is because with the temperatures getting so cold, and the soil being so moist because we just had a couple of days of rain, I'm afraid that the pots themselves will freeze and the roots might get damaged. If a lot of these plants were in the ground, wouldn't be a problem. The ground holds some sort of warmth, and we do not stay cold enough, long enough for the ground to freeze here in Eastern North Carolina. But the pots are a different story. I'm nervous about them freezing. I'm going to be taking some of these that are still left on the table and bringing them into the greenhouse, just to try to keep them alive and preserve them, and hopefully maybe get some more growth from them over the winter, and then I can start planting that out next spring. Here's a little sprinter boxwood. It's growing, it's alive, it's very happy. I'm hoping that I get some more growth off of it so I can plant it out next spring. Maybe I'll have to plant it out next fall. We'll have to see how that growth goes. But if I leave this out because it's in a small plastic container, I'm just a little nervous that the freeze may harm the roots underneath. So again, I'll bring that into the greenhouse. I have the space, and I'll show you that in a second. I keep getting distracted on the way into the greenhouse. We're not in the greenhouse yet. But for instance, I have this orange tree that'll be going in the greenhouse. This is a key lime tree that will be going into the greenhouse. This dahlia, I will let the freeze kill back, and then I'm going to be bringing, it's actually not one dahlia, it's a mix of dahlias. I grew them from seed. Bunch already got died back from a light frost we had. This is the last one hanging in there. So I'll let the hard freeze kill it back, snip it, And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn around and bring this into the greenhouse, but I'll cover the top with cardboard or something along those lines and basically store it on the floor over the winter. And then next spring, as things start heating up and it starts right before it starts growing again, I will dig them up, dig up the tubers in here, and then I can plant them out throughout the garden as the ground warms up. If you have a greenhouse and you haven't already, you should probably clean the glass. It's an important thing to do. I have been doing that over the last few days. Like I said, the outside glass I still have to clean. I started using paper towels for the inside, but I was going through a lot of paper towels. So what I did is I went onto Amazon. I found a Black Friday deal for like a $7 squeegee, and I'm going to use that to help me clean the glass for the outsides. And again, this way it'll allow more light in for the plants, for the warmth of the greenhouse, that kind of thing. All right, so come on inside now. All right, so here we are in the back corner of my greenhouse. And as I mentioned before, I've been cleaning and I've been wiping down a lot of the flatter surfaces. It helps keep everything nice and neat and tidy. So I've been doing that, wiping down all of the bracing and stuff like that. In the back corner here, I have all of my wooden potting trays. They're stacked, ready to go. And then along the top shelf over here, you can see, and then also down here, I have a lot of those plant cuttings from the potting bench, as I mentioned before. I'll keep them in here over the winter, and right now they're on the shady side of the greenhouse. They just don't get as much direct sunlight. This is the darker side of the greenhouse, as it were. Still plenty of light, and the plants will they'll continue to grow, hopefully. And if I need to, or if I see a plant struggling with any of the light here, a lot of this stuff is boxwoods, some privet, and they can handle part shade. And again, it's not really shade, it just doesn't get as much direct sunlight as the other side. On the bench here in front of me, I have a bunch of different gourds that I grew last year. I started preparing, cleaning up, trying to make birdhouse gourds, but I just never finished it. So maybe sometime this week, later in the week, after that cold blast, I'll turn around and try maybe finishing some of these up, get them painted, shellacked, whatever, and then maybe up on the Etsy store over the next week after that. We'll have to wait and see. I do have a bunch of birdhouse gourds that I have grown on a vine, and I'm starting to harvest now this year, but they probably won't be ready till next spring maybe. So we'll have to see what happens with that. Let me show you the front half here. All right, so on the front half here, I have, so you can see right here in the front over here, various gloves, tools, whatnot. I went through the shelf, tidied it up a bit. In fact, there's a lizard right over on the shelf now, hanging out. My little greenhouse guard dogs. So this is my potting bench right here. And again, many of you have watched this channel before. You know the basic setup, and it's very similar to what you may, in fact, I copied kind of what I saw on Pinterest with a lot of other potting benches. So I have a bin for my soil, and right here, I have a bunch of Sprinter boxwoods. I think they're all Sprinters actually, except for this one. This one's privet, but they all need to be divided. So they've grown on enough that now they're putting on all sorts of new growth, but there may be 4 shrubs to a pot, and these pots aren't particularly big. So you can see, again, it's like 4 shrubs here, not a particularly big pot. So what I'll do is, over the next couple of weeks, is I will repot these, but I'm going to keep them here in the greenhouse, because if I repotted them and put them out into the cold, they wouldn't survive. I'd be surprised if they did survive. But if I repot them, keep them here on the bench in the greenhouse, good chance that they'll put on some new growth in their roots. They may even grow a little bit, grow on, and then who knows, I could plant them out next spring if they're large enough, big enough. Let's go look at the other side here. So now we're in the front of the other side here. I brought in my succulents that I had on the back potting bench, and I have them set up on the sunny side window here. Some of these succulents could more than likely handle the cold very well, but I didn't really want to take any chance. Some of these succulents have put on some beautiful growth over the winter, so they can stay here, hang out here until maybe springtime when it starts getting a little warmer outside, and then I can throw them back outside. Back in this corner here, and I don't know what I'm going to do with these yet, but I have 3 peace lilies. These 3 I left, they were very small, and I left them out on the potting bench over the summertime, and they grew on quite nicely. They got pretty tall. And as you can see, we got some nice new growth. They have gotten a little brown singed on the leaves because I have left them out over the past week or two, and it's gotten down to the 40s at night. The plant's not really happy about that, so obviously I've brought them inside. I don't know how they're going to fare over the winter here, so I will be keeping an eye on monitoring them. They may have to go into the house where it's going to be much warmer than the greenhouse, and I will talk about the heat of the greenhouse in just a moment. Now let's look at the back half. Not really much going on in the back half here. The bench has been cleaned off. Again, wiping down all these surfaces, cleaning as much of the windows as I can so that it allows as much light in as possible. I still have to clean off this back thing here. Now let me show you my heating system. Along the bottom here, you may see these black milk jugs and water bottles. This is my passive heating system. Simple concept. Basically, they absorb light during the day. They get warm, and then at night they release that warmth. I'm not going to swear that this is an end-all be-all for everybody everywhere. Again, if I lived in New York where the temperatures are colder on a more consistent basis, I would definitely have a heater in this space. But surprisingly, during the Arctic blast that we got last Christmas, this greenhouse never got to freezing, and I knew that because I had very tender lettuce leaves that I was growing, and they didn't die. I was almost sure that those very tender lettuce leaves would be dead, and half the plants in here would be dead with the very cold temperatures that we had gotten overnight and the subsequent days where it didn't get above freezing. So this passive heating system actually worked. Now, again, I don't believe that this would work for a prolonged period of time in an extendedly cold environment, but I'm in growing zone 8B, so it doesn't get that cold here for that long on a normal basis. On the bottom here, I have various agapanthus. I have a much larger, well-established privet. I have some pineapple lily. These are all in dark containers, so they'll also absorb heat. But these are plants that I wouldn't feel too comfortable with having them outside during a freeze, but I can bring them in here, put them on the bottom. Obviously, the floor will get colder than anything on the benches, but I don't believe it'll get cold enough that it'll hurt the plants at all. The floor, obviously swept, clean, prepared for the winter, but over the course of the winter and definitely into the spring, this floor will again get absolutely filthy with dirt and debris. It happens. This is a working greenhouse. I was just talking to my wife the other day and I said if I had to do it over again, I would probably just do cement along the borders for the frame of the greenhouse, almost as a footing, and then I would infill to the interior with, let's say, brick or cobblestone with no grouting. This way I could sweep all the dirt in between the cracks and life would be wonderful. So over the course of the week, I will be bringing in my citrus plants. I'll probably do that Tuesday. I'll bring my citrus plants in. I will bring in water jugs into the greenhouse so that I can water the various plants, and what remains on the potting bench has to be brought inside. So once again, Mother Nature forces our hand and motivates us to get things done as quickly as possible. If you have a greenhouse, let me know in the comments below. How did you prepare your greenhouse for winter? Do you grow anything in your greenhouse during the winter? I will be growing radishes in my greenhouse this winter, and I'll be growing lettuce in the greenhouse this winter. I may also try growing a few other things. So if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe, click that bell icon to be notified of when I do post up that new video. If you're not aware, I have an Etsy store. The link is here below, and I have lowered the prices for Black Friday, but I have not yet raised them. So this being Cyber Monday, make this your last chance to go over to the Etsy store, maybe grab yourself a print, a magnet, something along the whatever else I have posted up over there. Also, my book is still currently on sale. That's Pictures from My Garden that I recently published over on Amazon. Check out the links below in the description. So if you want sale prices, if you want to get yourself a book or a print or something else on discount, go check those out now. What else, Sophie? Can't really think of anything else at this moment. Again, thank you to all the new subscribers. Again, let me know if you have greenhouse, any thoughts, questions, or if you have any questions about anything that I'm doing with my greenhouse, please leave those comments below. Let's go wrap it up for today. I'm going to catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.